Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Jeff Blankenburg, and welcome to another episode of Alexa and Friends. Today, I have the honor of talking to one of our brand new Alexa champions, Young No, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Jeff. Awesome to have me.
Yeah, so one of the first things I wanted to ask you, because I know the answer, but I want you to share it with everyone else. Where are you based?
I'm based in Melbourne, Australia.
Melbourne, Australia. I actually had an opportunity to come to Melbourne. Boy, it must have been almost 3 years ago now. I think how long Alexa's been in Australia? I think about 3 years. That sounds about right to me.
Yeah, I think 3 to 4 years, so a little bit behind the US.
A colleague of mine, Ozzy. Did you know Ozzy?
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about Aussie later, but yeah, I think she's probably the reason why I'm an Alexa champion. So I love Aussie. Yeah,
that's Ozzy Farjad. She's fantastic. So
yeah,
she's joined us here in Seattle. Well, no, I'm not in Seattle, but joined me on my team. Which is in Seattle, and I'm so glad that I get an opportunity to work with her. So one of the things that I like to do with these interviews, right at the top, is ask you a couple of silly questions.
Yeah.
And so the first question I want to ask you, especially because as we're somewhat coming out of this pandemic and movie theaters are starting to open again, I have a whole bunch of superhero movies that I want to go see soon. I think there's a Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings is coming out.
Yeah, that's definitely on my hit list. Definitely.
Yeah, I think that one's going to be good. I'm a big Marvel fan.
Yeah.
The question I want to ask you is, across all of the superpowers you've seen from any superhero, DC, Marvel, it doesn't matter, one superpower, if you get to pick one for yourself, what would you pick?
Like thinking about sort of how I grew up, and I grew up in probably the 90s with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Van Damme and all those guys.
Sure.
I've always been a skinny guy, so I'd love to be the Hulk and just bulk up and muscle up. So that's sort of my superpower.
Yeah,
Go from mild-mannered to the Hulk.
Nice. It sounds like maybe you think you're already that way already. You have a bit of a temper.
Nah. I'm pretty docile, but I think probably my kids would rile me up the most.
Yeah, I know all about that.
You know that, yeah.
As we're doing this interview, also there is a gigantic thunderstorm right outside my house, and so I feel like that's a thing that might make me start to turn a little green too. I get it. Yeah, that's a good one. So one of the questions I always like to ask with that is, so you want to have the opportunity to be big and strong and muscular and powerful.
Yeah.
How would you use that for good?
I guess we're talking about movies, and I mean, I love my action movies, and I think I always love movies like John Wick and all these movies that the bad guy gets what they deserve. So I'll probably be the hero and stitch up bad guys.
Nice. I like it. As you're talking about John Wick, my dog started barking. Dogs seem to be a big part of that movie series.
Yeah.
I won't spoil it for anyone that hasn't seen it, but okay. So that's great. So you would choose to be Hulk style, or at least have the ability to take on some of that kind of superhuman strength.
Yeah. Definitely.
My other question for you involves a bit of a story. I want you to imagine you're walking through a large city, and you need to get one street over, and you see that there's an alley you could cut through, or you could walk around the big city block. And so it's a brightly lit day. It looks very safe. So you decide to cut through this alley. And as you get about halfway down the alley, you notice at the end that you're heading towards that a large horse-sized duck appears in front of you. Just comes around the corner. He looks a little aggressive. Doesn't look like he's trying to make friends. And so, like any wise human would, you turn around and try to go back the other direction, only to find out that end now has 100 duck-sized horses, very, very small horses. And so my question for you, not all that different from the superhero question, is which direction would you go, and how would you kind of fight your way out of there?
I have a thing about rats, and I'm imagining these little duck-sized horses that looks like rats. So I'm not going there.
No. Okay. So
no.
You're going to take on one big duck. Any strategy?
I'm going to take on one big duck. Yeah.
How you might get after that?
I'm running. Like I'm probably not as agile as or fast as I was when I was younger, but I reckon I could. I'm sort of imagining the duck with big web feet and bit clunky. So I think I could cut around him and just bolt. That's where I must
I think so too. I think if you think about the size of their body, right? They're much
they're waddling,
much wider than their foot base is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of room between the wall and their feet. Yeah, I think that might be an option.
I think so.
For sure. I always want to ride that duck.
No?
I think that would be interesting. You remember there was a movie called The Never-Ending Story,
Oh yeah.
and so
We're,
Atreyu.
we're probably the same vintage,
Oh
Jeff.
yeah, we got Atreyu gets to ride. I don't remember his name, but that big kind of flying monster thing that he can
Yeah.
ride on. And I feel like that would be kind of like riding on a giant duck, right? Kind of fun, a little bit horse-like, but like majestic. I don't know. I think that can be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think for me, there are certain animals that I don't know, like rabbits and rats, and a duck is a little bit the same way. So yeah, I'm not touching them. I'm
Okay, you're gonna pass. That's fair.
gonna pass. Yeah.
That's fair. Okay, so let's get into some of the real content.
Hmm.
One of the things that the audience loves the most is when I ask people about their background. So
Yeah.
you're Alexa Champion, and we're going to get into the company that you work at, that you run
Yeah.
and founded, and we'll talk all about that stuff. But what I'd love to know is kind of how you got to where you are today. Maybe where did you go to school? What coursework did you take? What were the jobs that you've taken over the years
Yeah.
to get you where you are? If there were any big pivotal decisions or people that had a massive influence on your career, I'd love to hear about all of that.
Okay. I mean, I can start from the start. I was born in Vietnam. I think. I think I do have a little interesting story where we were, part of the original boat people. When I was one, my parents in the middle of the night, whisked me off in a little rickety boat. We went out to sea for a week, landed in Malaysia, sort of in a refugee camp, and I think New Zealand and Australia took us in. So I think Melbourne's home ever since. I mean, I love Melbourne. This is probably where this is where I would want to be, but I'd love to sort of explore different countries, different cultures. I mean, I've been to the US. I've taken my sons to the US probably 5 or 6 times, been to Disneyland many times. I'm a big Chiefs fan, so I've been to Arrowhead a couple of times. So that's pretty
Wow.
awesome. But I think from there, I graduated as an aerospace engineer, Jeff. So I've done a lot of different things. I've worked on as an aerospace engineer, the F-35 jet strike fighter. Then I moved on to the car industry where I would build computer models of car crashes, crash them, go down to the proving ground and crash cars, and then sort of correlate those models. I've worked in Switzerland for a gas turbine company, and I've done enterprise collaboration tools, Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, with a bunch of different, I guess, organizations. So that's sort of my background in terms of where I've worked.
Yeah, that's that's an amazing story to think about the fact that you and your family had to flee from Vietnam. And what's really interesting to me is most of the people that I've had an opportunity to meet in my career that are from Vietnam,
Yep.
they're always some of the most brilliant, creative people I've ever met. And it's interesting to me to think that there was a time in Vietnam's history where their best and brightest were just doing anything they could to leave.
Yeah, that's true. So I think a lot of people did it tough, but like if you think about my parents, they were doing well in Vietnam. They had to leave, so they started again. So I think what I appreciate and what I admire most about those people who went on the boat is their resilience and their willingness to work hard and sort of rebuild a life for people like me, who now have good opportunities to do things they love and I guess have a good life and build a family. So it's awesome.
Man, that's an amazing story. Amazing story. So you've had a bunch of different interesting opportunities. So you said you went to school for aerospace engineering.
Aerospace engineering, yeah.
Where did you go to school?
RMIT University, so a uni based in Melbourne.
Okay, very, very good. And then, you said you got to work on the F-35s?
Yeah, F-35s. I did stress analysis for them, so that was pretty cool. I think at the time, I think one of the aerospace companies down in Melbourne got a contract with Lockheed Martin and all those big US contractors. So there's a lot of work going down here.
Wow. All right. So you did that. You said you were modeling car crashes. I assume you didn't have to make the cars, but you had to was it all computer modeling? I don't know a lot about that.
Yeah, it's computer modeling. So it's mathematical modeling, but you actually model the physical representation of a car. You give it a speed, dynamics, and you crash it into a wall. And then what we would do is go down to the proving ground, and simulate that model with real car crashes. So would suit up we'll wire up the car with all these accelerometers and take readings, put the crash dummy in it, and just crash the car, and then go and correlate that model to the crash. So we have a correlated model, and then we can sort of help with the design of the crash safety. So we'd look at things like different materials, different parts to help the crash response of the car. So that was pretty cool for a while.
Yeah. So how many cars would you say in your lifetime you've crashed?
I mean, I didn't crash it. I wasn't a test engineer, but I've probably seen a dozen cars crash, and that was pretty cool. They're pretty expensive. I can't
imagine.
Yeah, they're pretty expensive. Yeah.
Wow. So where did you go from there?
I think from there, I think the pivotal part and sort of where Boy started for me was, I took some time off probably 5 years ago, and I decided to go to base camp Everest. I think at some point in life, Jeff, you sort of take a breath and you sort of ponder and you think about where am I going? What do I like? What do I want to do for the next 10 years? And I did base camp Everest, and that was a great experience with a group of great people. But it let me just sort of reset my goals and just think about things. And I sort of.
And for those that aren't familiar with that, can you give me a quick description of what does it mean to be at base camp Everest?
Oh, we're just tracking. So we're walking 6, 7, 8, 10, even some days 12 hours a day. Not just walking, going up and down. And I think there's a saying in Nepal that it's Nepali flat, so it's a little bit up, a little bit down. So what you do, you walk up and you'll find a sense of achievement because you walk 4 hours and it's just gradually going up, and then you have to go down the mountain, then back up again, down, up again. So it got quite disheartening sometimes. Like you do all that work and you have to sort of go down, but it's really just getting up to the base camp where not the base camp where the climbers go, but sort of base camp, and you sit at the bottom of the mountain and you look up and you see Everest there. So that was awesome opportunity. So
yeah. And how long did you do that?
That was a 12-day track. So,
oh, nice. Okay, I thought you were suggesting that you had stayed there for quite a while, but a 12-day track.
No, that was a 12-day track. Yeah.
That sounds fun. I should put that on my list of things I need to try.
I think you should, and let's hope the world opens up so we can again, I guess.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. All right, so you have some time to think and focus, and so what does Base Camp Everest tell you? Where do you go?
It sort of tells me that I was sort of interested in healthcare and how doctors and hospitals and that sort of help patients help and make real lives. So. It really came down to, I love technology and I love healthcare. Let's find opportunities in that space. So we got a job at one of the trauma hospitals in Melbourne, and I would help clinicians and nurses and admins just sort of use Microsoft Teams to collaborate and work. But from there, I think it really the idea of voice came when I'd like to go to these what they call grand rounds, where they talk about doctors present about interesting cases and research, and in one of them, one of the ED doctors was speaking about how paramedics would sort of give them the heads up who's coming in like a car accident, etc. And they showed a picture of an SMS with the minor details like the age and the sex and the heart rate and those things. And I was sitting there and I thought, couldn't we do better? And that sort of played on my mind for a bit. And I was sort of imagining how that could be better. And I think I sort of thought about the experience, sort of thought about the paramedics and how they're busy with their hands and they can't. And then I said, voice would be perfect for the situation. And that's sort of when that aha moment where I thought this voice has something here and voice could change the situation to sort of help that situation. But then you think about how it could change the world for the better. And that's sort of when I sort of saw Alexa and thought, what definitely wasn't love at first sight. I was thinking, who the hell would talk to a device? And it just sort of didn't click. Sure. And once it did, and once I had that experience, then it sort of led me down this long rabbit hole exploring voice and to where I am here today. So that's sort of that journey, a long and windy journey, but that's sort of where I'm at.
No, but see, those are the stories that I love because you've come from a very different background, right? I mean, I wouldn't say aerospace engineering is something that's directly related to voice and software development, really at all.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see the kind of path and the journey you took to get there, including the journey to Everest. So I think that's an awesome story. A little background on me. Before I joined Amazon, I actually had a similar moment. I didn't have the living at the tallest mountain in the world for 12 days, but I had an opportunity to go help start a healthcare startup.
Okay.
And the whole idea was, it was around solving specific problems that we observe in healthcare. But the big one for me was the idea of the one patient record. And the example I always like to use is that if you go to your doctor this morning and you get a full checkup and he tells you everything's fine, he prescribes some drugs, or whatever, maybe even gives you an injection of something. If you walk out of his office and are hit by a bus and are taken to the nearby hospital, they will have no information, no record at all about any of the things that just happened that morning. Because the systems, at least here in the United States that we use, it doesn't share data very easily. And it can take weeks, if not months sometimes, to get you very small amounts of data that, hey, he had a dentist or a doctor's appointment, let alone what happened or what treatments were applied while they were there. So we were really looking at ways where we could build a system where the patient themselves owns their record, and they can choose what bits and pieces are shared with each of the medical professionals that they work with. It's a really interesting concept. It did not succeed, but it was something that we were really very interested in trying to solve. But I was very fortunate in that right as the wheels were coming off, Alexa was born. And so I was like, that is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. I can see a number of applications for this across accessibility and healthcare and other things that I was really interested in. And so here I am. My 5-year anniversary at Amazon on the Alexa team is less than a month away. So it's been an awesome journey.
Yeah. It's funny you talk about that. Like, I've worked on projects where the Australian government has My Health Records, which is the national records for Australia in terms of our citizens' medical records. So I've worked at the hospital in terms of helping upload our medical records to that system. So that's sort of it resonates with me, that story.
Yeah, and it is interesting in countries that have socialized medicine like Australia, like the UK. It's an easier problem because you have one centralized organization that owns that piece of data. But in the United States, we don't have that. So each hospital system, each doctor's office potentially has their own version of you, and that can make it very tricky when you have complicated cases.
And I'm sure different states have different laws, and it gets messy, doesn't it?
It does. For the most part, most of the healthcare rules are federal rules, so they're at least nationwide.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are some nuances to the state's rules. I don't know if you can hear that, but it is.
Yeah.
That's some good thunder outside.
That is.
So you kind of saw voice. I mean, I'm sure, like everybody, you've played around with things like virtual reality, augmented reality, all that kind of stuff. Why is it that voice kind of stood out to you?
I think voice stood out because it could be integrated with everything. It could be that layer on top of everything, So you're talking about interacting with technology, right? You're talking about how we get technology, get devices, get information, and voice is that fast, easier way to do it. And it's natural. So everyone talks to, we communicate by talking. And this is where we're really just communicating to the technology. Now, being natural and having this whole history of talking and communicating that way, it does have its challenges. And one of those challenges, just to set the expectations on what Alexa could do, what a smart assistant can do. So it's good in a way, great in a way, but also it does make it difficult as well.
Yeah. All right. So you get into voice. What's the gap look like between when you discover voice, feel like this is the thing you kind of want to do, and then founding CogniVocal, which is a company, and we're about to dive into that. But was there a big gap, or was it like, no, this is what I need to do, and you just ran?
I pretty much just ran. Like what I am impressed about with the Amazon and Alexa system is that you guys yourself, led by you, Jeff, the evangelist, and all that space, it really is geared towards helping as much as you can developers or people just wanting to get into voice. So you start with GitHub and you start with the tutorials and you just read through and you go to CLI and you just build a skill. And that's where it really started. So I just did some tutorials, I built a skill. I love is on YouTube and stuff is listening to inspirational speeches, commencement speeches.
Yeah.
So I sort of built a skill around that, and that, and then you build your first skill. You have a library of things things that can functions in your skill. You go to the next one and you move on, and you just build your database of sort of features, and then you just get more complicated, and you just keep building. So that's sort of how I started.
Awesome. And so let's get into CogniVocal. What's kind of the mission there?
I think the mission is really just to connect consumers with technology, right, and then help them do what they want in a way that is easy and help. And I think we build our own products, so we built games and how it started was I went to a hackathon and that's where I met my partner Andre Alcantara there. And that's why I love hackathons. Now we don't do many these days because of the situation where we can't go in person. But
right.
I met him and I saw his profile and I thought, okay, he's a creative guy, I'm a technical guy, and we sort of meshed well. He's extroverted, I'm introverted, so we sort of worked well there. But from there we built a prototype Pirate Island skill, and we sort of decided to go off and build it. So we worked pretty hard in the month before the Alexa Skills Challenge, the ISP, and we did final on that. So that's all our genesis.
Nice.
Hackathon, submitted, and
so
then
Pirate
we
sort of built on. Your first
pretty much big one. So
okay. And then I know you've built a number of other things. What's kind of the one that you pulled up as like your best effort, the one you're the most proud of?
I think most proud of, and it's not really out there getting big uses because it was in a university study. So I had a friend who did aerospace engineering. She became a clinical psychologist, and we sort of were just throwing ideas around. And this idea of emotion coaching came about, where emotion coaching is a proven program that helps parents help their kids with emotional development. So it helps them speak and talk to their child in a way that helps with them deal with emotions. So we thought, and we got a grant from the Turner Institute for Brain and Mental Health to build this, the Alexa skill, and we use it as an adjunct or an aid for like in session workshops with parents. So what it would do, we sort of simulated, it's sort of education tool, and we think about the 5. It'll help with the 5 steps of emotion coaching, the awareness around your child's emotion, labeling it so you both have an understanding, show empathy, and sort of help talk through that conversation for difficult, challenging emotions for the child. So we built a skill that ran through scenarios that would help the parent practice. So that was a university skill, and it's being written up now, so it'll be published in a journal in the coming months. But that's sort of what I'm proud of, to be a small part of helping a parent's journey, because I know that if you have challenges with your child's probably the most precious, important thing in the world for you.
Yes.
And for us to go out, and hopefully we need to sort of build it more, but to go out and be a part of the process of that healing, that makes me feel good.
I love that. What a fantastic story. I think that there's going to be more and more of this kind of stuff, right? I mean, what you're using is for not only kind of training, but also as a study, right? To help understand how people engage and interact with it. I think that's incredibly interesting. And I think it's one of the ways, when I look at the future of voice, that I think a lot of companies are going to start thinking about how they use this. I mean, every company that does any kind of marketing is always interested in surveys and sentiment analysis and a number of other aspects. And it just seems like this is a very natural way to try to communicate directly with their customers in a way that, again, feels natural, isn't necessarily intrusive. I'm not sending you an email survey that you have to fill out on your own time. But you can have a conversation with the company, the brand, the person directly through something like this and gather that kind of information. It's fantastic. What a great story.
Yeah, that's sort of our sort of vision with CogniVocal. Help companies engage with with their consumers. So we built commercial schools with the National Basketball League in terms of helping fans navigate the season. And I think what we're trying to do is to sort of put voice in that sort of core strategy, marketing and communications with their consumers, because I think for my belief, I don't think voice is trying to replace anything. It needs to sort of fit in, and we're trying to integrate email marketing with an Alexa skill where we would have fans and ask about games, the games that they can go watch. We'll send them an email and sort of have that persistent information, because voice is it's here and it's gone, whereas if you integrate it with a persistent place where they can store the information, I think that helps with I guess with engagement.
All right, so as we talk about the voice space, right?
Yeah.
How have you seen that evolve in your time? What are the big things that have stood out to you that you've seen the ball move?
Yeah, I think it's at Alexa Live, I think one of the keynotes mentioned around ambient computing, and I think we're obviously far away from that, but I think I'm seeing little things that we're moving in that direction. You look at all the devices that are now coming onto voice. I think you got cars, you got fridges, the good old the original microwave that Amazon put out. So it's going to be everywhere, right? So that's sort of where I see voice heading in terms of that I guess nirvana around ambient computing. So I mean, I can wake up in the morning from my Alexa device to wake me up. I can go in the shower, and there are voice activated showers. I can go into the kitchen and talk to my fridge, go out the door, jump in my car, and Ford and Holden, all these big car companies are putting voice assistants in their car and sort of that way. So I think it's around Alexa everywhere.
Yeah, I think the big thing that stands out for me is that voice is obviously natural and easy to engage with, right? When you have it in your car and you want to send a text message, like you can do that stuff with your phone today in your car. But the stuff that is really compelling to me is when we start talking about that ambient story, right? And now it's not just a microphone and a speaker, but it's a microphone, a speaker, and like 400 other sensors. It could be a camera, it could be a microphone, it could be a number of other things that are in your home. But when we start to piece all of those things together, I had a guest on here a couple weeks ago. He's very involved in the idea of a smart electrical box in your home, right? Everything is smart and measurable and controllable. And he suggested that our homes in the future may not have light switches. Okay. And I really, that makes my brain twist a little bit, because I love the concept, but as a technologist, as I think through all of the aspects of when I do and don't want the lights on, and how would it know? And a good example is like in the middle of the night when you get up to use the restroom, you don't necessarily want to turn the light on because you're going to wake up maybe your partner or your children, or like you try to avoid that stuff. So how does it know when to turn the light on, when to not turn the light on? But I want it to just know. I don't want to have to ask a voice assistant every single time. So I think that, like you said, it is a ways off, but I think that there's a really promising future ahead for sure. Okay, so let's get into that. So we've talked a little bit about where you've seen things move and where you've seen things evolved. As we talk about the future, where do you see it headed? What are the big things that kind of stand out to you as like the next big thing?
I think going back to sort of Alexa Live, and one of the examples that really resonated with me was around the events-based triggering and proactive suggestions. So we have Alexa, we have these voice assistants around giving us information, doing certain things. Well, let's take it to the next level. Let's have Alexa be more like that voice assistant that was spoken about for years. That assistant who's always there, who is always on, and always helpful. And the only way to be helpful is to be proactive. And I think I like the proactive suggestions, and where I think there was an example of ordering something from Whole Foods, getting in your car, almost getting there, location-based triggering, where it would alert Whole Foods that you're coming, and you pull into the car park. You'll pull into with COVID and you can't go in these days. Go into the bay, and say, Alexa, I'm here, and then that whole transition and that experience is smooth. So I think it's around now the assistants being a bit smarter, being a bit more attuned to you as a person, and helping you out there. But also, I think what also needs to be solved is the assistants being aware of your situation and having empathy, and so long way away. But I think it's all about the system being more proactive, and I love, that's why I love the idea of events-based triggering and proactive solutions. Early days, but I think looking back maybe 5-10 years from now, you'll sort of recognize that, okay, that's sort of where it started.
Yeah, I feel like that's the beginning of kind of a
Yep.
universal context for a user, right?
Yeah.
There's so much that I wish it knew about me. If it could take into consideration my entire calendar all the time and use that as a decision point as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I can ask it what my schedule is, but it's not using that data as a how should I perform a bunch of other functions input.
Yeah.
And I think that will be valuable in the future for sure. So, is there anything? I mean, you've been around Alexa for a while, and voice certainly. Is there anything that surprised you about Alexa's role in voice?
I think in terms of the device, I'm not sure. I think in terms of Amazon and the whole ecosystem and your job, Jeff, I think if you're not a developer and you're not in the ecosystem, you think of Amazon, you think it's a big shopping company. But I think what surprised me when I got into Alexa is that how active you were in promoting for the developers, helping the developers. And I mentioned this before, but I go back to how I met Ozzy, and I flew to Sydney for something else, and I oh yeah, this Alexa team is in Sydney, and I sort of messaged her on LinkedIn, and sort of she said, okay, come down to the Sydney office, and because I wanted to get that Alexa meetup up and running, the Melbourne Amazon Alexa meetup, and I sort of spoke about my ideas, and that's sort of how it started. And I think from there, that's sort of my that sort of accelerated my journey in voice. I remember being on Greg Bolmish and Joe Munoz's show around. They reviewed Farm Tycoon, and I think we're working with the Alexa team now on our new skill for the wine industry, wine tasting. So they're a big help, and I think it's sort of before Alexa, I didn't picture Amazon as that sort of company, but that's sort of what stands out to me, being in the Alexa ecosystem, is how you guys have developed and nurtured and assisted the developer community. So that I thought was awesome.
Thank you for saying that. I mean, this is something that is really near and dear to my heart, is the idea of embracing and helping to grow a community. Another example of that is our Twitch community, not Twitch, Slack community. I don't know if you've had a chance to join, but we have a really big group of people. It's over 1,300 people now that are there asking questions, getting their questions answered, supporting each other, sharing what they've learned, sharing their skills that they've built. And that's the most exciting part of this entire world to me, is that developers that are passionate are able to connect and share and grow with each other. And that's my favorite part. So thank you for saying that, because this is something I really think is important.
I would echo that, and I'd echo that the voice community is very open, very helpful. I remember you speaking at Chattanooga. I was there at Chattanooga. I did a speech there as well. But I remember being there and meeting guys like Terry Fisher and Brandon Kaplan and those I guess we'll call them heavyweights. And they were so helpful. I think it's a bit intimidating because you see them, you know them, they've got big successful companies, but I was just speaking with Brandon, and he gave me some tips. Like, this was before CogniVocal sort of just got started, so it was pretty much an idea, and he would give me tips. And I think that's how we would. That's sort of my I see my role and mission in terms of the Amazon Alexa meetup and just helping people to get into the space. Everyone starts somewhere. I started somewhere. I started with no knowledge and thinking, oh, this is cool. What do I do? And then sort of so that's sort of important, that community.
That's awesome. So as a developer, as somebody that is focused on CogniVocal and building things, what are some of the bigger challenges that you and your team face?
I think there are a couple of challenges around the technology, of course, and nothing's perfect. Voice recognition (ASR) that's not perfect, and building wine tasting skill that's giving us big challenges. You got these complicated grape names like Chardonnay, Sangiovese, and all these things, and then you got like for example, we have. We ask in the skill around the colors, the regions, the wine, etc. And orange is a region, it's an aroma, and it's also a color. So
Right.
so there are technical challenges, and that needs to be overcome, I think. And also the fact that there needs there probably needs to be more education, and Scott and Susan Westwater are great at trying to educate the wider audience community out there, business community out there on what voice is and how you strategize it. But I think our challenge working with companies is that voice is still seen as an innovation thing, as a side thing, and when things happen and priorities need to be thought about, I think voice goes to the sideline a little bit with marketing, with resources. So I think that's sort of our challenge, is to educate the business community, and also some of the technology that needs, hopefully will get better over time.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think as you continue to look at some of the features, the situation you described with Orange is not easily solved. I mean, you can solve that with code, right? So when you see something like Orange, you can catch it and be like, well, what did I ask them, right? I do this a lot with some of my skills, where I have to remember, like, what did I ask them? Then the answer has the context and the relevance that I need. But on its own, Orange, I have no idea which one of the three. But if I said, what region are you looking from? Well, now I know, like, when they say Orange, it probably means that one, right? And I can navigate that. But I certainly see the challenges that you have there. That's tricky. So are there any specific integrations that you guys use, services or technologies that you use with voice that kind of enhance your experiences?
Man, I mentioned it briefly before. It's around email marketing, and we think about integrating SMS. So I think, I mentioned that we don't want to replace other channels with voice. That's not the goal. The goal is to work within those other channels, and you work with marketing teams, and they do their email marketing, their SMS marketing. So let's use voice as a way to integrate with those existing systems, so that people are familiar with it. We're all glued to our phones. I'm sort of getting more and more that way, where I'm stuck on my phone all the time, and I don't think the mobile phone will go away. So how do we integrate that with the mobile phone? I think where it's going, I think in terms of the Alexa and the Echo was great, and we wouldn't be where we are as a voice industry without the Echo 5-6 years ago. But I think I see it more going to the mobile phone and going to sort of devices away from the smart speaker. So we integrate with email, where we're looking at integrating with SMS. It's just to sort of close that loop. And I think next, and just following on that, next week I'm kicking off my Melbourne Amazon Alexa Meetup again, and we're going to show you how we did email integration with SendGrid. So Twilio is an email platform. So that's cool. Sort of where we're going.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to reset just for a second. So for those of you that are just tuning in or just listening, I am interviewing Young No. He's one of our Alexa champions based in Melbourne, Australia. And I want to ask you another kind of off-topic question, which is, you talked earlier about some of the movies that you were kind of into, you know, 90s and 2000s action movies, Schwarzenegger and Van Damme, and I would imagine even a little Steven Seagal mixed in there, maybe.
Oh, it definitely.
So as you think about those things, that's awesome. I love those kinds of movies as well. What's your musical taste?
I'm going back to the 90s. I grew up on Bon Jovi and Guns N' Roses, Roxette, but I do like the new stuff. Like I like Eminem. I think he is crass, but I think there are some messages in some of his songs that sort of resonate in terms of resilience, giving up. Yeah,
I think he's incredibly brilliant and also amazingly talented. The music that he produces and I mean, let alone just his capabilities as a rapper.
Yeah.
Some of the music that he's behind as a producer is also just absolutely phenomenal. He really knows what he's doing.
There- there- There's
It's
also like there's also a bunch of music that I don't even know the names of, because kids these days are just, they're just music driven. My son has his AirPods in his ear 24/7, and
yeah.
they're listening to all types of music. And I said, I like that music. It's new. I don't know the artist, but I guess, I like all types of music. And I even go back to the Bee Gees and the Beatles and Elvis. So
Oh yeah,
I love everything. I love
all of that
everything.
stuff. In fact,
Yeah.
I am somebody that doesn't necessarily lock down on a specific kind of music. I like all the things.
Yeah.
I'll even listen to artists like Kesha, which is like kind of like pop dance music.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy, especially when you have headphones on. If you haven't had an opportunity to listen to Billie Eilish, she's a new artist.
Yeah, I know she won a bunch of Grammys, but that's about all I know.
Her music feels like it's designed for headphones, though. It's like,
Yeah.
she's at that age where she grew up with headphones on all the time, and I think
Yeah.
as she thinks about her music, there's a lot of things you don't hear through the speakers in your car and stuff, but when you put it on and it's a really intimate experience, there's a lot of really interesting things happening there.
Yeah.
So I like everything. It's very rare that you'll hear me say, "Oh, turn that off. I don't like this kind of music."
Yeah, I'm the bit the same way, Jeff.
Yeah, but I know a lot of people are like that. So
Yeah, I do read my kids and saying, "Oh, this younger generation of musicians, they got no talent, so they're copying all these older stars." So that's sort of what I get into.
yeah, and honestly, my daughter, who is 17 years old, well, both of my kids really, they have noticed that their music doesn't have nearly the level of guitars and drums that my music did, like
Okay.
90s alternative and rock and roll and stuff like that. A lot of their stuff is very electronic. And I think a lot of the popular music, honestly, that comes out these days is a result. I don't know if you're on TikTok.
No.
TikTok is honestly having a dramatic impact on the way music is discovered and listened to.
Okay.
Because I'll watch some videos from time to time, and then I'll hear it on the radio. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's that song. Now I want to hear the rest of it, because TikTok videos are very short, right? 30 seconds, maybe a minute.
Yeah.
And so you just hear the one interesting snippet from a song. But I see that happening over and over, where artists are starting to funnel those pieces of their songs into TikTok. They become a viral kind of thing, and then people want to find more of their music, more of their albums.
Okay. I mean, that helps with discovery, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like my sons are constantly on TikTok. It's interesting though. I think you mentioned you were 45 this year, and I'm actually 45 today. So
happy birthday.
So and my son's 17 as well. So but they're constantly on TikTok. So I sort of see that.
Yeah, it's and honestly, it's fun. There's a lot of interesting content even for us old guys.
Yeah.
So, it's
okay. I've never been on, but I might check it out.
It has I mean, at a minimum, appreciate the algorithm behind it, because you'll find it pays attention to what you watch, how long you watch, what you swipe on, and before you know it, you have this feed of content. I mean, honestly, within a few hours, that is tailored to you. And it's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's get back to the Alexa world a little bit. So I know you're pretty heavily involved in the Alexa community in Melbourne and Australia as a whole. I'd love for you to kind of share what kind of things you guys are doing there in the community, even in these virtual times, to try and grow and learn from each other.
I think COVID did stop the Melbourne Alexa meetup for a while there, and so we tried to go online, and we're going to try to kick it off again. But before COVID, we ran about 12 sessions over a course of a year, where we would get Aussie to come and talk about Alexa development, run workshops. I would run some workshops to get people started, and we had people like the NAB Bank talk about their banking skill, Deloitte talking about the Alexa bedside assistant, AGL Gas, talk about energy consumption, paying bills versus agents. So we just ran workshops to one, educate and upskill people, but also just to get people excited about thinking about use cases, thinking about those sort of things. So I think that's sort of what we try to do with that meetup, and that's sort of how hopefully we grow now. Hopefully now we can sort of kick it off next week again and be a bit more consistent. And maybe, who knows, we're in lockdown in Melbourne. I think we went on a 7-day lockdown. Now that's become a 14-day lockdown. So we'll see how we go. But I did buzz the guys in Sydney, Alexa team, to say, oh, when can we have in-person meetup? Because that was great. We would go down to the AWS offices and they'd set up the food and drinks and stuff. And it's just good to meet people and
those are
talk
nice
to people.
That's a good meeting space.
Yeah.
Well, if if you need me to come, I can find my way down to Sydney again. If we need to all get together in person when that can happen, I would love that.
All right, that'll be awesome.
Yeah. All right. So very cool. So you guys are obviously doing a lot of, well, at least you were prior to COVID, putting on a bunch of events and bringing speakers in and helping grow. And I hope that those of you that are watching, if you're in a place and you're like, man, I wish we had something like that in my city, that is your cue. You can be the person to start that. You don't have to be the speaker. You don't even have to be the expert. But what you do have is that passion and that energy. Find a venue. A lot of times colleges will offer spaces for free. A lot of consulting companies will offer spaces for free if you can find that they have a meeting room or something like that. But find a place that you want to meet. It could even be like a Panera if you really want it to be. But find a place where you can meet. Invite other people that you know that are passionate about this stuff. And you might only start with 3 or 4 people, but then they bring a friend and then they bring a friend. And before you know it, you've got 50 people every month showing up to talk about voice and show what they learned and what they built. Can't recommend that enough. So take this as your opportunity to think about how you would start a group in your city, because Dyung has done it. He's worked with a community in Australia quite a bit, and I've seen that around the world. It works very well, and it benefits you too. It elevates you into a position where you know people, you have a better network because of it. All of it is good stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, I echo that. And what I will say is that I started early days when I hadn't done much, so you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be far along your journey. You just have to want to be in that space, and you just want to, and you can learn and also help other people learn at the same time. And
Right.
you don't have to be a gun developer. You don't have to be this all knowledge expert around Alexa, around voice. You just have to have the want to do and help people. It's just about helping others.
Totally agree. I live by the philosophy that in order to really know something, you have to be able to teach it.
Yeah.
And the best way to teach is to go to that user group, to go find those people and share your experience, share your story. You might find that someone says, hey, actually, have you tried this? And now you're better because you shared how you do it and they have a better way. And so you learn and share and grow from each other that way. I think it's fantastic. All right. So we talked a little bit about the skills you have and some of the cool experiences that you've built. What are the technologies that you and your team use to build all that stuff?
I think it's just pretty standard stuff. I think you start with the Alexa Skill Kit and Visual Studio Code. You go into GitHub. A lot of resources out there. I build in Node.js because that's what I build in. But I guess you can build in Python. You can use tools like early days with Pirate Island. We used VoiceFlow and we sort of mapped out the conversation and sort of for the prototyping. I think a skill and a template that Amazon put out, I think Amazon put out in Adobe XD, where they had these nice templates to build it using situational design, and it's just nice to see it, right? So that's sort of how we can sort of see it, discuss it, test it, and review it. So I think Adobe XD has been great for us. I think the technologies we use are the Amazon stack. So, use Lambda to run your code, and use DynamoDB to store your data, and use, if you wanted to do API gateway to sort of maybe like for wine tasting, we're building some reports, some dashboards.
Nice.
So the wine, how many people were asking for Shiraz and all those things. So we're building an API gateway to just regenerate these dashboards for our clients, just to have a look at what's going on with that. We did try a little bit of CI, continuous development, but I think for us, the complexity of the skills aren't big enough to do that. But we did play with free skills like Travis. And we did look at Bespoken in terms of automated testing. So, but what I see in the Alexa console is the automated tools that we can test in there as well. So I think Amazon are sort of adding more and more tools that previously you found that you had to get a third-party tool. It's slowly coming into the console. So that's sort of what we use.
That's good to hear. When you find more value in our tools, that's always a good sign.
Yep.
And is it just you and Andre, or is there more people on your team?
Yeah, right now it's just myself and Andre. So we're sort of sort of grinding away. But
Yeah.
we're doing things we're doing things that are challenging, but we're also doing things that are very varied, you know. And I think we're sort of pushing different use cases, different industries. We're working out with the wine industry in you know Australia at the moment, where we want to introduce a traditional industry to new technology. And I think working with small wineries, which probably don't have the big tech infrastructure, but I think we're sort of going there. And you know, as I spoke about. The study with Monash University, we have our cool little games that you know Farm Tycoon and Pirate Island that we're sort of just to entertain people. So I think that's sort of our premise. Just do different things, try different use cases. We don't know if it will resonate, but we do know that we need to experiment. And I think as a voice industry, you sort of need to experiment, and you need to try new things, and that's what we're doing.
Very cool. So one of the questions I like to ask people that have or run their own company is, are you hiring? Are there any other opportunities in your organization? Is that something you guys have looked at?
Yeah, we would love to hire. I think we're sort of in a spot where it's voice in Australia in terms of companies that the opportunities aren't as big as the US or aren't, you know, so that's hard. But we are trying to, like, I think we would like, our goal is to sort of build wine tasting up to have to a point where we can get funding and we can sort of go and build that out. I think we're waiting on the emotion coaching write-up report, and we're going out for more grants. So there may be opportunities in the future for that.
Very, very, very cool. All right. So I have one last question for you before we wrap up here. I know we had Alexa Live just a few weeks ago. It was the week of the 21st, July 21st.
Yeah.
And I know we talked a little bit about event-based triggers and interactive events.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that specifically that stood out to you as being an interesting innovation?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I loved, and we spoke about people on the mobile phones, and I don't think anything that will replace the mobile phone anytime soon. But the Alexa for apps, that you know, that's what I was excited about, to have Alexa transition to the mobile app, because most things that we do is on a mobile app. You know, we do banking on a phone, we talk to our friends on a phone, our kids are on TikTok. So to start the journey or the experience from Alexa and move it to mobile phone, that I think will be big in the future. So I love seeing that.
I agree. And honestly, if you look at the global population, there's a good, I mean, I know a bunch of Americans that don't own a computer. They live and breathe by their phone anymore.
Yeah.
And so you have to acknowledge that, like, that is the home base for everything.
Yeah.
So I think I agree. I think that the more we can find integrations between people's phones and the devices in their homes and their toaster and their microwave and their refrigerator and their lights and their garage door, all of those things, the more that those things play nicely together, I think the better it will be for all of the users that are out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm here. I'm so excited about where we're headed, and it's hard to believe how far we've come in just these 5 years. So I'm looking forward to the next ones. Well, yeah, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to join me today. This has been fantastic.
Yep. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me. And you know, I had fun, right? And I thought we had a nice conversation. And then, you know, you're easy to speak to, so it was good.
Well, thank you. You are as well. And it's funny the parallels we have, right? Same age, kids the same age.
Yeah.
Both living in the world of voice, and really only met because of Alexa. So I'm really glad we got this opportunity.
Yeah.
And hopefully in the near future, pandemic be what it is. You guys said you're locked down for 14 more days. I feel like the United States is headed that direction very quickly.
Yeah.
Hopefully, once we get all free and clear here, I would be more than happy to try to come down and meet you in person and dinner. That'd be great.
I'm sure I'll make it over to your way as well. So.
All right. Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely keep me posted. I'll try to track you down in this big old country of ours.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you so much again. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. We will be back here again next week. Don't forget, we have office hours and a number of other things to check out. So make sure you're on our mailing list, all the stuff. And we'll see you guys all very, very soon. So thank you so much.